Hate You Give is a new drama that was directed by George Tillman Jr. It's based off of a book that I, of course, have not read. It stars Amanla Stenberg. It stars Regina Hall, Common, Anthony Mackie. Also stars Russell Hornsby. And what this movie is a story about this girl named Starr. The girl named Starr is a girl that comes from two different neighborhoods. I mean, she has this one neighborhood where she comes from, where all of her people live, you know, mostly a black neighborhood. There's crimes, there's drugs, but there's also fun, you know, it's her life. She also goes to school at this predominantly white school, and she has to kind of pretend to be two different people when she's in these places. But unfortunately, the balance that she has to strike when she's being who she has to be at this white school as opposed to who she is in her own neighborhood, that balance gets shattered when all of a sudden one of her childhood friends gets gunned down by a police officer in front of her. Now all of a sudden Starr is facing all this pressure from all these different sides, and she has to try to find her way through this very difficult situation. Her family has to also help her cope with it, and she ultimately has to try to find her voice so that she can speak for her friend that was killed by this police officer. I'm gonna level with you guys, I don't usually like revealing stuff like this. I usually like keeping emotion and raw feelings like this inside, you know, because for some stupid reason I think that it helps and it's better that way, even though this is likely gonna lead to me dying from prostate cancer sometime in my 50s. Full disclosure, after this movie was over, I went to my car outside the theater and I just took a few minutes, and the emotion of everything that I just saw hit me so hard that I actually started crying. If there is one word that I would use to describe this film, it is powerful. I saw the trailers. I thought the trailers, I'm like, okay, that looks like an interesting story, but it also looks like it could be watered down for younger audiences and stuff like that. I didn't know if they would treat the thematic issues in this film that a story like this would imply with the kind of weight and the kind of respect that they deserve. And I was wrong. Honestly, I can say here, having seen the film, that I was wrong, because The Hate You Give is a very emotionally raw movie. It's a film that left me feeling raw emotionally when it was over, obviously, and it's a film that is much more hard-hitting than you would think that a movie like this would be, which seems like it's geared more towards the young adult audience. I wish that I could get into the ins and outs of this film and how it was directed and the filmmaking and stuff like that. The only thing I can really say is that the performances in this film are amazing. Like Amanla Stenberg, I know that she's a talented actress. I've seen her in a few other things. I always call her the little black girl from Hunger Games that got killed. She was in another movie this year called The Darkest Minds, where she was the best part of a bad movie, but in this one, she is the best part of a great movie. I believe that her performance in this film is Oscar worthy. I hope to God that she gets recognized at the Oscars next year, because there was some powerful stuff coming from her. All of the emotion and all of the things that a girl like her would be feeling are things that I have felt, and that's why it's really hard for me to break this movie down from a filmmaking perspective, because it's really all personal with me. I can't really break down the ins and outs of everything else, because that's not how this movie spoke to me. This movie spoke to me on a very raw level. The reason why it spoke to me is because obviously I'm a black guy, and I've been in a lot of the situations that are depicted in this movie. I've been pulled over by the cops for no reason. I've had friends get killed for no reason whatsoever. I've had my life threatened. I've had friends who have gone through this. I've had family who has gone through this. If you're a member of the black community, I just feel like there's no way you can't identify with some of the shit that we deal with in this movie. This is one of those things where it's going to sound weird, but if you haven't lived it, you honestly have no idea what it's like. You won't understand it. Police brutality, the drugs in the neighborhoods, the weird unspoken racism that sometimes exists between black people on this side and white people on the other side. All of these issues about Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter and this person got shot and did they deserve to get shot? These things that can lead to a friendship getting ruined or someone else in the family doing something stupid that could get them locked up. It all just hit very close to home for me in this film, and that's why from the opening frame until the end of it, I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. Russell Hornsby is also a very well-known actor that I've seen in a lot of other stuff over the years. He also might be Oscar worthy in this film. Like, he plays Starr's father in the film, and he has some very powerful and very important messages that he gives to her and her sibling. And you can't let hate, and you can't let racism, and you can't let death, and you can't let all these obstacles in our way stop us from being happy and stop us from being proud of being black. I want you to go out there and I want you to experience this film for yourself. It's about a girl that is torn between two different worlds, who somehow has to find a way to find herself while also speaking up for her friends, while also speaking up for her community. All the implications that her actions in this film, her words in this film, and the voices of the people that are unheard, how that all affects her and her family and how it affects us as a people. As far as issues with the film, I do think the first beginning of the movie relies a little bit too much on narration and exposition. It's a small thing, it's a nitpick, but it is something I feel like I should point out for this review. Also, a storyline in the movie where there's somebody that goes to do something, and I feel like that subplot wasn't really answered or delivered on. It just kind of happened, and it didn't really connect with the rest of the plot in any meaningful way. It's one of the hardest movies that I've had to watch this year, guys, because of the personal experiences that this movie made me think about while I was watching. It's hard for me to believe that you're not going to watch this movie and not feel angry and not feel sad and not feel maybe even a little inspired by the end of it. How far we've come and how far that we still need to go. Overall, The Hate U Give is a powerful movie, and it deserves the most powerful rating on my channel, Superman Prime. It's definitely not for everybody, and like I said, if you have lived through this, if you have been through some of the situations that have been depicted in this movie, then I think it's going to resonate with you a little bit more. Guys, that's my review for The Hate U Give. Please stay tuned for more reviews, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.